start.
We're going to start now.
Okay.
So we have Kevin and Jackie with us today.
They don't have a last name. They're in witness protection.
That's right. Yeah.
Doesn't that last name really matter? We've been going... Welcome, by the way, you guys.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Even though we have been chronologically going through different time periods in the Seeds story, you guys transcend all...
Transcend.
all timelines. You are present in them all.
Yeah.
So
Or omnipresent.
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
Good word, Jack. So yeah, we wanted to have you guys come and speak into a few significant, you could probably talk about a lot of things actually about seeds, but we're going to try to rein you into a few specific categories. One being cell leaders. I don't know that anyone has been as in cell leadership as long as you guys. You get the prize.
Right on.
Is it
Coming in the
true-
mail.
Is it true that you would have led a cell already back in 1999 when the first cell groups were made after we?
I would think so. Yeah. Because I would say we did, and I don't ever remember us not doing that. So I guess we have done it that long.
So for 26 years, you've been leading small groups.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that feel, Jackie? She's very bitter, but she keeps doing it.
That's
so
true.
In fact, you're going to lead cell group tonight.
That's
so
right. Yeah,
it continues.
We're a bit addicted, I guess, for lack of a better word.
gluttons for punishment.
Yeah, exactly. I think that when cells became, or it became obvious that cells were a kind of a crucial part of seeds, I knew that I loved that idea of the small group because it was a bit more intimate than the corporate worship. Mm-hmm. And also, I guess because we had led like Bible study groups pre-seeds, it was like, well, I guess we can do it.
This is what we do.
This is what we do, and this is what we can do, even if, we don't want to. It would, whatever. It's just sort of something that we could do. So we've done it, and there were times where there was some co-leading, so that kind of took a bit of pressure off. And so, yeah.
And actually, in more recent years, like the group that we're with now has been, it's changed somewhat at the edges. Like we've had a few people leave, a few people come, but I guess the core group has been there for a number of years by now. And so leading isn't what it used to be, in that we, in the last few years, have just kind of had a rotation of leadership. So we would still be sort of the main organizers of things, but point people. But in terms of actually like leading an evening, we have shared that among participants, except for the people who would rather run their forehead on a cheese grater. We don't make everyone do it. Not everybody has to host it in their home. Not everybody has to lead, but most people do take a turn. And that's because it's always the one of the biggest things about being a leader is the what. What are we going to do? And when you just kind of put it out and say whatever you want, surprise us. And it's actually worked quite well. It's just been a variety of things.
You've done a lot of different things, from like leading specific studies, like or books or video series, or like back to the Numa days, the Rob Bell videos, having meals together, talking about things that are going on in each other's lives. Like when you look back kind of over the whole scope of it and all the different people that you've been able to be connected to because of cells. Because I think both of you are very, there's a reason why you've been leading cells for 25 years. Like you invest yourselves in people's lives, and people feel, I think, incredibly drawn to being in your presence because you're good at creating space for people in your lives. but yeah, I'm just curious about what that feels like to look back and think about what that's been like for you. Like what, obviously sometimes a burden and sometimes probably quite an honor to sit in a room with people that are sharing things about their life and stories that are hard and beautiful and all that.
And I would say that the relationship building and learning about people's lives and sharing people's lives is the kind of the highlight of cell groups. I mean, aside from the leading part, which sometimes feels like an extra responsibility on top of, we have real life outside of cell. What? I know. So that I think is that continues to be the drawing card, and even just people's desire to continue in a cell group. You think, okay, well, if you guys are all excited about this, then we'll just keep doing it.
And I think it has been very rich to, it's been surprising how people have opened up in groups in the past. And I think we've just fostered some very significant relationships through that medium. People seem to have felt safe enough to, and I think we've made it like it hasn't been a pretentious, whoever knows the most Bible verses gets a gold star. It's kind of the opposite of that. If you know too many Bible verses, we kick you out, except we've kept Jordan.
We're thankful for Jordan.
But no, of course I'm kidding. I think it's been a place where people have felt safe and they've kind of risen to the occasion, and it's humbling too to be in the presence of people who are sharing those intimate details with you, and it's an honor to be given that privilege, that they feel that safety with us and the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm. And even though we have been considered the leaders of the group, they have led us in lots of different ways too. Like sometimes I walk away and I think, well, I just learned so much from you. So it's not about, us directing how things go. People's lives and their experiences lead me as well. The other part that I wanted to say about cell groups is when people say, I remember being in your cell group and either this is what we did or this is what made a difference in my life, and I just think that's cool. And I don't feel like I take credit for it. I think that as leaders, we just kind of rallied the troops and sort of said, come on down, and went from there. I don't think that it was anything necessarily that specific that we did.
One of the things that we, in our articulation as leadership about what it is that we are doing at Seeds or trying to do at Seeds is when answering one of Patrick Lencioni's 6 questions.
Right.
The 4th question is, what do you do?
Yeah.
And then we always say, we create environments for people to connect to God, self, and others. And cell groups have always been one of our core environments and that help people connect to themselves, to others, and to God. And I think too about how, I don't know, you guys were probably, do you ever remember going to any small group training events? Like we've had different ways of approaching leadership and groups and how we are open to new people in groups and what is the focus of our groups. And so you've kind of ridden along some different seasons of, right? It's kind of like just like the church.
We've been trying to corral you into doing things a different way than you might want to do it. How many different times? And is there a question to that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some of those things. Like one of the big challenges with the whole cell group model is that trying to you establish a group, you are together for a period of time, you create some safety and familiarity, but you always want to leave room for an open chair. That was always the concept. We always want to leave room for others and invite others in. But and it's not, I don't ever remember feeling like, oh no, we're closed. But it's just been an awkward dynamic to manage, to try to bring new people in while also maintaining what you have, and without things getting, and if they get too big, then you talk about splitting, but nobody wants to split, or birth, I should say.
Multiply.
Yes, multiply. So I think that's been a big challenge all the way through.
Yeah, somehow, even though we tried to like package it as birthing and multiplying in these positive words, it was always like the split is the one
We have
stuck.
to divide.
Yeah.
We have to split and divide.
You have to divorce from your group.
That's right. Tear it apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question I had was, I know from our vantage point, we've always felt like cells have been so critical to who Seeds is. Like, it's like kind of like you said, it's one of our most important environments, but it's also been sort of a lifeblood thing. What has it felt like? How have you felt like cells have been important if you think about the larger Seeds church body? Like, have you ever been conscious of that? Like, of how what you're doing in your small group with the people that you're connecting to, how that's sort of connected to something larger than just what you're doing. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think I would like to think that the corporate worship, is that the right way to say that? Sunday morning stuff in a bigger group. I'd like to think that the cell groups is kind of what keeps people coming Sunday mornings, because now in these small groups, they've developed relationships with a wider variety. At least that's been my experience. It's a wider variety of people than we may typically connect with. And then, I belong to a cell group. I feel like I belong to this church. So I'm not sure if I would be able to say, oh yeah, I think that's for sure what has happened, but that would definitely be my hope.
Yeah.
You know that it makes a difference when you meet those people, those same soul people, just in ordinary life or at church on Sunday. Like, you know that you have a more significant relationship. I wish I could tell you that I think of it all the time, that this is how the whole web is connected, interconnections with other cells, and this is what makes the great grand scheme. But it doesn't really occur to me very often. But I just know that when I have a significant encounter with a person outside of, Karl, and even just rubbing shoulders with those people in that simple action, when I see them at the credit union, it makes a difference that we connected in that simple way. And there's nothing deep happening at curling. So when you can have like a significant encounter with a person in a living room, it just makes a big difference in your relationship.
I think all the data points to, unless there is a smaller connection between like 8 to 10 people, there's just no way a church can have a sense of connection if people aren't able to connect in more intimate ways about their lives. Nobody's going into a place where there's 100 people where they're going to feel seen or, feel like they can, do anything beyond. There can be significant things that happen in a big group, but if it's going to come down to the social relational level, it's got to be because you're interacting with a few people and you have the ability to wrestle with something or talk openly about something. And so I know that for some people it's made coming to church easier because they at least know, we have a lot of social anxiety these days, right? Like coming into a big space. But at least I know I've got some people that I am in a relationship with and they're going to talk to me.
Right.
So we could probably talk about cells longer, but I also want to get to other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and move to our corporate worship gatherings. And Kevin, I'm going to kind of probe your brain, your memory about you've been very significant in we don't really do this anymore, and I don't even remember which years we started doing skits in worship.
It was early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very near the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'd have a theme, something we're focusing on, and we'd have components of songs and a teach, and as I remember it, the job of Kevin for the skit was like to put us at the 1 yard line. That's kind of what
Do
we
all the
talked
heavy
about.
lifting.
Do all the heavy lifting.
So that you and Ted could just step across
Just
the goal.
punch it in.
Yeah. And so you would help
I mean,
bring...
sometimes we fumbled at that 1 yard line.
Totally. But like, let's say, for example, we were talking about what? Money. I don't know why that came to mind. Then through an interaction in a skit, you would kind of like bring some of the questions forward and create some of the tension that we may have with money in the Bible or money in our lives or something like that.
That was always the hope. Yeah.
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 So, and obviously we all have to talk about Karl and Lester in that whole thing. Tell us about, why don't we start there maybe? Well,
actually, I think where I'd like to start just with this, because
Okay,
it's...
you just take over.
Well, no, no, we can get to that. But I think that, I don't know, like the fact that I ever got involved with this is I don't know. I don't even know how it happened, because I remember being in a couple of little sketches in like Rosenfeld School, and Eddie Hepner and I doing like a Carol Burnett skit. I don't know why we did that, but everybody was in the gym and we got a laugh here and there, and I thought, boy, that feels good. But then all through like junior high and high school, I didn't participate in drama things at all, because I was busy sitting in the hall in case a girl would talk to me. That's the only reason I know why. I must have thought that kind of thing wasn't cool or something. But then when Seeds started, maybe even though when we were at the Berkteller, we played around with that a little bit because we were senior youth sponsors, and I remember doing a little bit of that there. But I just felt like there was some kind of energy in me for that sort of thing. And I remember very early on at Seeds, I think Connie might have been the first person who said, well, I'll be in charge of some drama things, or I'll try to see if we can do a drama thing. And I remember she had found a script for something, and then I had said, I think I'd like to be involved in that too. And I read this script over that she had found, and I remember, like, I'm not a big reader of books, excuse me, but at that particular time, I was reading Catcher in the Rye. I had heard of it. I had heard it was controversial, and I thought, well, I want to read that. And I remember there was this passage in there that was hilarious. I remember reading it in bed before going to sleep, and I was laughing and thinking, this is the funniest thing. So I read this script that Connie had, and I thought, we got to stick this Catcher in the Rye thing into this script because it's so funny, and that's what I want to do. So we did that, and I think that's where my writing began. Except it wasn't even writing; it was sort of cut and paste. But anyway, we did that, and then it just sort of started to gain some momentum, and then we started doing dramas on the regular. And initially, we were looking for things out in the world on the internet. And then I started writing stuff. And I remember that one of my favorite, my favorite characters on television were Larry, Daryl, and Daryl from the Newhart Show. I thought those guys were hilarious. And I think they were the inspiration for Karl and Lester.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good.
So Karl and Lester are these rednecks from somewhere down in the States, probably Arkansas or something. And they're cousins slash friends. And Karl is a kind of he's a church-going, faithful, fairly naive
Always
dude.
wants to do the right
Always
thing.
wants to do the right thing. Has a lot of
Angst.
interesting ideas about things. Isn't a complete idiot, but he's very naive. And Lester, played by James Dell, he's more wise to the world, cynical, skeptical, and is always sort of like Karl's pitching his harebrained ideas, and Lester is telling him what an idiot he is and keeping him in check or whatever. And they together create this tension. And what was so fun about them was that, so they speak with, Southern accents, which is fun, and dress like rednecks and have redneck things going on all the time, which is, so you can just Google redneck whatever on the internet and get all kinds of food for thought. It was just, they were a great vehicle, I think, for all sorts of things. And what else was I going to say about this? Just to develop their characters over time, because it was like they had these personalities, and I think as we moved through time, we could just kind of create more. They could evolve, and we could create more depth with them, and that was just very rich to be able to work with these two dudes and do stuff.
I want to say that you've probably written hundreds of them. Maybe, I don't know how many you have. I don't know how many you still have access to, but do you happen to have access to the very first Karl and Lester?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do have it.
Like, I miss those guys. When you're talking about that, I think, oh man.
It's a funny thing, like I sometimes think that it's like, I kind of miss them too, but at the same time, you know that when you've watched a show, and then when it's gone a season too long.
Yeah.
And I think it got to the point where it just started to sort of feel that way, like it's probably things are probably starting to wind down, and we need to park these guys before they go a season too long.
So I think an important element to add to this is that the skits with Karl and Lester were very amusing.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't just like, conversation between the two of them, like with Karl's crazy ideas, and then Lester just putting him down. And the references to things either redneck or whatever, philosophically ridiculous, was funny. So
Yeah.
people, I think people, they would see you guys enter and they would be at the edge of their seats, or their faces would light up because they were looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because they were such a great combination of humor and irony and satire, and also really hit some important themes. I remember hitting, of what people actually struggle with, or what the different things that we were talking about on a Sunday morning,
Or even just to demonstrate the ridiculousness of life.
Yes.
With things that we wanted to kind of focus in on.
and kids, like adults and kids, like could all
I think
connect.
they're big characters, and they're very like physical comedy, and it was like, yeah.
I also want to say, like, just the whole humor component, that was definitely always a goal. I think in all the drama that we did, or at least the great vast majority of it, and I think that too speaks to the culture of Seeds, or what we were trying to cultivate was, just having this relaxed, non-stuffy, like we're
Real.
we're here. Let's be real. Let's have some fun. It was just, yeah, it was sort of the opposite of stuffy we hoped.
Yeah.
So,
So I
and
remember-
it was a great, like getting involved in this stuff was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a vulnerable thing, but I think the seeds culture too, like I just felt incredibly safe becoming or kind of growing into this. Like I kind of just would look out at the people and think, well, this is probably gonna be real dumb, but I think I'm in good company. Everybody's on my side. It's gonna be okay. So here we go. And so it was that really speaks to the community as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you weren't usually too concerned about having all the lines memorized.
Well,
Like you kind of, it was a bit like a Saturday Night Live thing where you had the papers like strewn out somewhere and you would at times miss the cue and make
Or
light of that.
James would miss the cue sometimes, and you would step in
have to
and
do his
feed
lines
the-
for him.
yeah.
What you meant to say was,
Yeah.
So the last time I think we saw Karl was during the pandemic.
Karl had a few things to say during the pandemic. Yeah, he was flying solo then, of course, because he was isolating.
Yeah,
I mean, what
that's-
could he do? So but he was able to get his message out.
Maybe in the upcoming 25th Seeds celebration, maybe there'll be a place for them to come and visit.
The swan song.
Perhaps
Yeah,
there will.
we'll see.
You know, I'm just wondering, like, this is getting really, really meta and deep, but I just wonder why. You ever ask the question, why did Karl and Lester resonate with people so much? Like, people love Karl and Lester. And, I mean, we are not in Arkansas, so we have some distance from redneck culture as we think about it. But do you think, have you ever thought about what, I mean, I've got a theory I could test. Like, I'm wondering if it's that we live, like, we're rural people. We live in a small town. So part of us is sort of connected to the village, like we are DARP people. Like, so we have that as part of our lineage. But then at the same time, we like to think we're pretty sophisticated and progressive. And so dealing with issues out of that milieu of sort of more simple kind of rural people, there's something about it that allows us to maybe see ourselves in it without feeling like we're those kind of people. I don't know. I just
We can
wonder.
make fun of them even though we are them.
Yeah, it's sort of like a.
Yeah.
don't
No,
know.
I think you might be right. Yeah, that's probably part of it. I also think people love hearing other people do accents.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know, like it's also kind of a group of people that's just, I don't know, just fun to make fun of. And that's probably maybe not even politically correct anymore either. But yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. I don't know. It's hard to know.
I haven't heard too many people getting canceled for doing Southern accents.
No,
So,
not yet.
I mean, you could have done
Someday.
Minnow accents, I guess. You could
Yeah.
have.
Okay,
You want to talk about Christmas?
let's talk about Christmas.
Yeah. So we have this list of, I guess, 24-ish, or slightly less than 24, because there was one year where we didn't do a big Christmas deal. But
During the pandemic, you mean?
But part of our, at some point, we got into thinking that we should put a lot of energy into Christmas. And at some point, we made the risky decision that we were actually going to do 2 services. I think I remember your first response to the idea of doing 2 was basically like, are you nuts? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever thought of. But we have consistently had, like, 400 plus people over 2 nights for Christmas for a long time. What do we want to say about Seeds and Christmas? It seems like it's a big part of what we did, and you were always at the center of it. We would not let you go. Oh, we did let you go. You went to Europe one
There
Christmas.
were a couple of years where
yeah.
but I mean, we were home for the prep and just not.
Yeah, we
home,
got the most we could out of you
not
before you
home
left.
for the
Yes.
show necessarily,
Yes.
but Yeah, that too has, I mean, it's always been as most people know, I'm a farmer, and Darlene always wanted to get way out in front of these things and would want to call a meeting in July and start talking about Christmas. And I've got crops that are waiting to be harvested in the fields, and I didn't really particularly want to talk about Christmas, but she made me. And and then fall was always busy too, and then the heat would be turned up. So I would say that Christmas at Seeds was very rich for me, being involved in all of this stuff. And I always loved I didn't always love forgetting my lines for sure, but I did always love the whole experience of the 23rd and the 24th for sure. The getting ready, I definitely experienced some stress about that while simultaneously, trying to farm and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't trade it for sure.
Yeah, I keep thinking as we're nearing the end, like, I'm never going to have to do another Christmas thing again. And then I'm never going to get to do another Christmas. Yeah. It's always a little bit of both. Yes, it required an awful lot, and we cared, I think, as a team about being creative and doing things that would meet who our community was, and like something that actually would connect well. And I think over the years, there's been so many different things we did. In some of the early years, we had more of a, like, more emphasis on production, like that we did plays and dramas and sets and things like that. And in the latter years, maybe less of a production mindset, but still always, something we already started thinking about in summer, because these things take.
At least we tried.
Yeah.
Kevin would let us.
What do you have? Does one stand out as your favorite? Both of you, either Kevin. Which one did you love the most? Answer that first.
I think Carol Lynch was probably my favorite.
What year was that?
I don't know. Where is it here on the?
It's got to be
A Carol Christmas 2011.
Yeah.
2011.
That's what it says here.
Oh my
It's
word.
that? Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
What
Carol,
made that one?
Yeah, Carol Christmas was a modification of the ever modified story, A Christmas Carol.
Yes. So I remember watching The Devil Wears Prada. That summer, fall, whatever, and then Scrooged, and I don't know where the idea, I don't know how these things happen, but suddenly the idea came to kind of merge those two together, and that's basically what that was. And
Why was it your favorite?
I don't know. It was it was just I thought it was funny, and we had some great music. I remember Paul and Amy doing a lot of music in the transition times, and I don't know. I just thought it was just rich. Yeah.
Christmas. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we had, like, in the traditional story, you have the three ghosts of Christmas past, right? Or there's Christmas past, present, and future.
That's right.
Yeah. So one of them, I'm not sure which one was Nathaniel.
Yes. Who
was a rapping ghost,
right, yeah.
which was quite well done. And yeah, it was a really. Is this the only, like, adaptation of A Christmas Carol where a female took the role of Scrooge?
I don't know, but
it was. It was a neat way of doing it, because it kind of allowed you to go into that sort of fashion magazine type world and have a character
right
that was a bit more of a contemporary character
right.
than Scrooge is in the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody who's seen The Devil Wears Prada, like Meryl Streep plays a very much Scrooge kind of a person.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that wasn't a stretch to get inspiration from her. So
Christmases felt like a time when the gifts in our community got to be utilized really well. Like I feel like we have such strong musicians and people like you, Kevin, writing or adapting, and we often had a team working on adaptations, or the design process was often like robust, and we struggled a lot, but it felt like we were able to use our community's gifts and offer it as a gift to the community. Yeah. So I agree. I have a lot of great memories of that too.
One thing I want to say about that too is that we had a very good culture always at Seeds where we like to get inspired from somewhere else, but we never were content to just let how it was. Like, we never would let something just come in as it was. Like, we'd always be saying, like, no, that needs to be modified. We need to make that relevant to us. That's not going to work. That's too slick, or that's whatever. And we always were so interested in, like, making it
our
own. Yeah. That it would feel like this is authentic to us. It's like, we didn't come up with the idea, but we're going to use a good idea, but we're going to make it our own. And I don't think we ever stopped doing that. Like, I was part of that sort of like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do it that way. Let's rethink that. And it was always, I think it was a good process. It's almost like we were, I don't know. We always needed to make it.
To own it.
Custom.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you take spaghetti sauce out of a jar, you got to add something, right?
Well, yeah, for sure.
So maybe not a lot of people would know this, but like, we've had a pretty long-standing friendship with you guys, and putting these Christmas shows together every year sort of put our friendship to the test a little bit. Hey, Kevin?
Well, I remember it was, a lot of marital spats with Ted and I's
yes.
marital spats. Yeah. It was a good thing that we were both such well-adjusted, mature.
Like, aren't you going to miss fighting with Ted?
I can fight with him about other things.
Yeah.
we can find other topics, realms.
It just wasn't Christmas unless you guys were like
bickering.
But there was always the classic tension between the artist and the people who were trying to make the artist look good. And we always were saying, like, that's not going to work. Like, that's, and then, so if we didn't get mad, the product would have suffered.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing snippets and contributing to the rich history of the stories that we will take with us from Seeds. And,
it's fun to remember. It's when not prompted to do so, it's easy to forget about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And just get caught up in your life.
All right.
Thanks.